Why do so many retirees with $800,000 saved end up broke by 73, while others with half that amount live comfortably into their 90s? The answer isn't income. It's not luck. It's 8 purchasing decisions wealthy retirees refuse to make, and you're probably making at least 4 of them right now. Every single one is a slow-motion financial bleed that turns a solid retirement into a nightmare of anxiety, dependence, and regret. But here's what nobody in the finance industry wants to admit. Avoiding financial ruin in retirement has almost nothing to do with how much you saved. It has everything to do with what you refuse to spend it on once you stop working. I'm a billionaire. I built Oracle from nothing. I've spent decades watching people with money make decisions that destroy them. And I'm going to walk you through the exact 8 expenses that separate retirees who stay wealthy from retirees who die broke and embarrassed. Subscribe if you're serious about protecting your money. This isn't theory, this is survival. Let me tell you about a 67-year-old man I know who walked into a Mercedes dealership with $780,000 in his retirement account. He walked out with a brand new S-Class, $95,000, financed over 5 years at 6.9% because his credit wasn't perfect. He felt like a king. He told his friends he'd made it. 3 years later, he's selling that car for $52,000 because he can't afford the payments anymore, and his retirement account is down to $580,000. He lost $43,000 on the car, paid $11,000 in interest, and bled another $18,000 in insurance premiums he didn't account for. That's $72,000 gone, vanished. For what? So he could feel successful while driving to the grocery store twice a week. This is thing number 1 wealthy retirees refuse to spend money on. New luxury cars. And I'm not talking about transportation. I'm talking about the $50,000 plus vehicles retirees convince themselves they deserve after a lifetime of work. Here's what you need to understand. Wealthy retirees don't buy new cars because they understand something you apparently don't. Depreciation is a silent wealth assassin, and it doesn't care about your feelings. Let's do the math you're avoiding. You buy a $60,000 SUV the day you retire. It loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. That's $12,000 gone in 10 minutes. By year 3, it's worth $36,000. You've lost $24,000 in depreciation alone. But that's not the real cost, is it? You're paying $650 a month for 6 years. That's $46,800. Add full coverage insurance at $1,800 a year for 6 years, another $10,800. Maintenance, tires, registration over 6 years, conservatively $8,000. Now you're at $65,600 spent to own a car that's worth $30,000 when you're done with it. You've burned $35,600. And here's the part that should terrify you. You're going to do this again in 6 years. And again 6 years after that. Over 20 years of retirement, you're spending over $200,000 on cars. That's not transportation. That's financial suicide with leather seats. Wealthy retirees buy 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicles with cash. They let someone else eat the depreciation. They drive them for 10 years. They don't finance anything. Why? Because they're not trying to impress people at red lights. They're trying to stay wealthy. You're doing the opposite. You're trying to look rich, which is exactly how you become poor. Now let's talk about thing number 2, boats, RVs, and recreational vehicles. I'm going to say this once. If you're in retirement and you're thinking about buying a boat or a $120,000 motorhome, you're not thinking clearly. You're having a fantasy. And that fantasy is going to cost you $250,000 over the next 15 years. Here's the reality nobody tells you about RVs. You're not going to use it as much as you think. The average RV owner uses their vehicle 23 days per year. That's it. You're going to buy a $100,000 Class A motorhome, use it 3 weeks a year, and spend the other 49 weeks paying storage fees, insurance, maintenance, and repairs. Let's break it down. Purchase price, $100,000. Financing over 10 years at 7%. You'll pay $139,000 total. Insurance, $2,000 a year. Storage, $150 a month or $1,800 a year. Maintenance and repairs, $3,000 a year average, and that's conservative once it hits year 5. Over 10 years, you're spending $197,000 to use something 23 days a year. That's $8,565 per day of use. You could stay in 5-star hotels, rent luxury RVs when you actually want to travel, and still spend half that amount. But here's the psychological trap you're falling into. You think owning the RV means freedom. It doesn't. It means you're locked into that form of travel because you've sunk so much money into it. You're not free. You're trapped by a depreciating asset that's bleeding your retirement account while sitting in a storage lot. Wealthy retirees rent. They use things when they need them, and they let someone else handle the depreciation, insurance, and maintenance nightmare. And boats? Don't even get me started. There's a saying in boating: the 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy it and the day they sell it. You know why? Because in between those 2 days, you're hemorrhaging money. A $75,000 boat costs $12,000 a year to own. Docking fees, maintenance, insurance, winterization, repairs, fuel. Over 10 years, that's $120,000 in operating costs on top of the $75,000 purchase. You're spending $195,000 to use a boat maybe 15 days a year in retirement. That's $13,000 per day on the water. You could charter a yacht with a crew for less. Here's what wealthy retirees understand that you're missing. Ownership is a trap when the asset depreciates and demands ongoing costs. The wealthiest retirees I know don't own boats. They have friends with boats. They don't own RVs. They rent them once a year when they actually want to use one. They don't buy new cars. They buy used, pay cash, and drive them until the wheels fall off. Why? Because they're optimizing for wealth retention, not ego satisfaction. You're at a stage in life where every dollar you spend is a dollar you can't replace. You're not earning anymore. There's no bonus coming. There's no raise. Every purchase you make is a withdrawal from a finite account that has to last you 20, 25, maybe 30 years. And you're out here buying toys that lose value every single day while costing you money to own. That's not retirement planning. That's wealth destruction with a bow on top. Here's the question you should be asking yourself right now. How many years of financial freedom are you trading for the temporary feeling of success? Because that's the real cost, and we're just getting started. You're paying for 7 streaming services right now, and you're only watching 2 of them. You've got Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Apple TV Plus, and some sports package you signed up for during March Madness last year. That's $127 a month. You also have premium cable because I like the news channels, another $140 a month. Your total monthly TV bill, $267. You're spending $3,204 a year to watch television. Over 20 years of retirement, that's $64,080. And that's before we talk about what you're actually watching, which is the same 6 shows on rotation and the local news twice a day. This is thing number 3 wealthy retirees refuse to spend money on: premium cable packages and streaming service hoarding. And before you tell me it's only $10 a month for each service, let me show you how that thinking is destroying your retirement. Wealthy retirees are ruthless about subscriptions. They audit them quarterly. They cancel what they don't use. They share accounts. They rotate services, subscribe to one for 2 months, binge what they want, cancel it, move to the next one. Why? Because they understand that $10 a month is $120 a year, which is $2,400 over 20 years, which, if invested at 7% returns, would have been worth $5,200. You're spending $5,200 in future value for something you're not even using. But here's where it gets worse. You're not just bleeding money on entertainment subscriptions. You've got the premium gym membership you use twice a month, $89 a month, $1,068 a year. You've got subscription boxes, coffee, wine, meal kits, razors, another $60 a month. You've got cloud storage you don't need, software subscriptions you forgot about, magazine subscriptions you don't read, and app subscriptions you signed up for during a free trial and never canceled. Add it all up, and the average retiree is spending $400 to $500 a month on subscriptions they barely use. That's $6,000 a year. Over 20 years, that's $120,000 gone, and you didn't even notice it leaving. Wealthy retirees treat subscriptions like what they are: recurring wealth extraction. Every month, companies are pulling money out of your account automatically, and you're not even checking what's being taken. You know what that is? That's financial negligence. That's you letting corporations retire on your money while you wonder why your account balance isn't growing. Here's what you do today, right now. Log into your bank account, pull up the last 3 months of transactions, and highlight every single recurring charge. Then cancel everything you haven't actively used in the last 30 days. No exceptions. No, but I might use it. If you haven't used it in a month, you're not going to. Cancel it. You'll save $3,000 to $5,000 a year without changing your life in any meaningful way. Now let's talk about thing number 4. And this one is going to hurt, because you're doing it right now and calling it living your life. I'm talking about eating out habitually, not special occasions, not your anniversary dinner. I'm talking about the Tuesday lunch at Panera because you didn't feel like making a sandwich, the Friday night at Olive Garden because we deserve it after a long week. Except you're retired. You didn't have a long week. The $47 you spent on DoorDash last night because you were tired. That's what I'm talking about. Let me guess. You're spending $400 to $600 a month on restaurants and takeout. Maybe more. You don't even track it because it feels like small purchases. A $15 lunch here, a $60 dinner there, a $28 breakfast on Sunday. It's all reasonable in the moment, right? Wrong. That $500 a month is $6,000 a year. Over 20 years of retirement, you're spending $120,000 on food you could have made at home for $30,000. You're paying a $90,000 convenience tax to avoid cooking. That's not a lifestyle choice. That's financial incompetence. And here's the psychology you're missing. When you were working, eating out was a reward for your time and effort. It made sense. You were tired, you were busy, you were earning. But you're not working anymore. You have time. You're not earning. Every dollar you spend on convenience now is a dollar you're stealing from your future self. The 78-year-old version of you who's going to wish they had an extra $90,000 when the medical bills start piling up, or the car finally dies, or the roof needs replacing. Your 42-year-old son just called. Again. His car broke down. He needs $3,500 for repairs because he doesn't have it, and he can't get to work without a car. This is the 4th time in 3 years you've bailed him out. Last time, it was $2,000 for rent when he was, quote, between jobs. Before that, it was $5,000 to help with credit card debt. You've given him $18,000 over the last 3 years, and he hasn't paid back a single dollar. But he's your son. You love him. So you transfer the money. And every time you do, you're not helping him. You're crippling him. And you're destroying your own retirement in the process. This is thing number 5 that wealthy retirees refuse to spend money on. Repeatedly bailing out adult children. And I'm not talking about a one-time emergency. I'm talking about the pattern, the cycle. The adult child who never seems to get it together, and the retiree parent who keeps writing checks because they can't stand to see their kids struggle. Let me be very clear about what's happening here. You're enabling financial incompetence, and you're bankrupting yourself to do it. Here's what wealthy retirees understand that you don't. Helping your adult children once, strategically, with conditions, with a plan, is generosity. Helping them repeatedly with no accountability, no repayment plan, and no consequences is not generosity. It's weakness, and it's going to cost you everything. The wealthiest retirees I know have boundaries with their adult children that would make you uncomfortable. They say no. They let their kids struggle. They let them fail. They let them experience the consequences of their own financial decisions. Why? Because they understand that real love sometimes means letting people hit bottom so they learn to climb out on their own. But you can't do that, can you? You can't say no, because saying no makes you feel like a bad parent. So instead, you say yes, you transfer the money, and you tell yourself you're helping. You're not. You're teaching your adult child that they don't have to be responsible because mom and dad will always be there with a checkbook. You're teaching them that failure has no consequences, and you're teaching them that your retirement savings is their emergency fund. That's not help. That's harm with a bow on it. Let me show you the math you're avoiding. Let's say you bail out your adult child an average of 3 times a year, at an average of $2,500 per bailout. That's $7,500 a year. Over 15 years of retirement, that's $112,500. And here's the part that should terrify you. That money is gone. It's not coming back. Your child isn't going to pay you back. They haven't yet, and they won't in the future. You've given away $112,500 that you're going to need when you're 80 and the medical bills start piling up. And when that day comes, when you don't have the money, where do you think you're going to end up? Living with that same child you kept bailing out. The one who never learned financial responsibility because you kept rescuing them. You're creating your own nightmare. Wealthy retirees set boundaries. They help once with a clear contract. They offer to match what their child saves. They provide resources, not cash. They connect their kids with financial advisors, not ATMs. And if the child refuses to change their behavior, the wealthy retiree walks away. They don't fund dysfunction. They don't enable irresponsibility. And they don't sacrifice their own financial security for an adult who won't take responsibility for their own life. That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. And it's time you learn the difference. Now let's talk about thing number 6. And this one is even more emotionally loaded because it involves your grandchildren. I'm talking about funding your grandchildren's every want and desire. The elite travel sports teams, the private school tuition, the new iPhone every year, the $200 sneakers, the college fund you're contributing to while their parents contribute nothing. You're doing this because you love your grandchildren and you want to give them opportunities. I understand that. But here's what you're missing. You're confusing love with money, and it's going to destroy you financially. Let me tell you about a 71-year-old woman I know. She has 3 grandchildren. Over the last 10 years, she's spent $140,000 on them. Private school contributions, sports fees, summer camps, college funds, birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, just because gifts. She wanted to be the fun grandma. She wanted to provide what her own children couldn't afford. She felt good doing it. Last year, her car died. She needed $18,000 for a replacement. She didn't have it. Her savings were gone. She had to ask her son, the father of those grandchildren, for help. He said no. He couldn't afford it. The same man who let his mother pay $140,000 for his kids couldn't come up with $18,000 to help her. She's now driving a 22-year-old car that barely runs and living on $1,800 a month in Social Security. That's what fake generosity looks like in the end. Wealthy retirees do not fund their grandchildren's lifestyle. They contribute strategically to education, maybe. They give meaningful but modest gifts on birthdays and holidays. But they don't pay for elite sports teams. They don't buy new phones. They don't cover expenses that the parents should be covering. Why? Because they understand that it's not their job to fund their grandchildren's childhood. That's the parents' responsibility. And if the parents can't afford private school or travel hockey, then the grandchildren go to public school and play recreational hockey. That's not deprivation, that's reality. But you can't accept that, can you? You want to be the hero. You want to be the grandparent who makes everything possible. So you're spending $8,000 a year on your grandchildren while your own retirement account shrinks. Over 20 years, that's $160,000. And here's the question you need to ask yourself. When you're 85 and you need help, are those grandchildren going to take care of you? Are they going to pay your medical bills? Are they going to move you into their home? Or are they going to be too busy with their own lives, completely unaware of the financial sacrifices you made because their parents never told them? Let me be very direct with you. Your grandchildren don't need your money. They need grandparents who are financially stable and independent. They need role models who understand boundaries and financial responsibility. They don't need a grandparent who's going to be broke at 80 because they couldn't say no. Being a good grandparent doesn't mean funding everything. It means being present, being loving, and being wise enough not to destroy your own financial future in the process. Wealthy retirees love their families, but they love them with boundaries. They help strategically, not reflexively. They say no when necessary. They let their adult children be adults and their grandchildren's parents be parents. And they protect their own financial security first, because they understand that becoming a financial burden on their family later is far worse than saying no to a request now. Let's finish this with the two expenses that are quietly destroying retirees who should know better. Thing number 7, high-fee financial advisors and garbage insurance products. You're paying some advisor 1.5% of your assets every year to do what? Rebalance your portfolio twice a year and send you a quarterly statement you don't read? Let's do the math. You have $600,000 invested. That advisor is taking $9,000 a year. Over 20 years, that's $180,000 in fees. But it's actually worse, because that $9,000 a year would have been growing in your account. The real cost? Over $300,000. You just paid someone $300,000 to underperform a simple index fund. And those whole life insurance policies or indexed annuities they sold you? Pure garbage. You're in retirement. You don't need whole life insurance. Your kids are grown. There's no one to protect. That $4,500 annual premium is going straight into the insurance company's pocket, not yours. Cancel it. Move to term insurance if you actually need coverage, or drop it entirely. Wealthy retirees use low-cost index funds or pay fee-only advisors a flat rate for actual planning, not 1.5% annually to babysit their money. They don't buy insurance products as investments. They understand the difference between protection and wealth building, and they don't confuse the two. Thing number 8. Expensive resort-style retirement communities. You're looking at those beautiful 55-plus communities with the golf course, the pool, the activities director, and the $4,200 a month fee. Over 20 years, that's over $1 million. You're spending your entire estate to live in a fancy apartment complex with organized bingo. Wealthy retirees downsize to normal homes in affordable areas. They stay in their paid-off house as long as possible. They don't pay $50,000 a year to live somewhere that's designed to extract every dollar from their estate before they die. Here's what all 8 of these things have in common. They make you feel successful, comfortable, and generous while making you poor. Wealthy retirees stay wealthy because they refuse to confuse feeling rich with being rich. They make boring decisions. They say no. They protect their capital. You're at a crossroads right now. You can keep spending on these 8 things and end up broke, dependent, and filled with regret. Or you can start making the hard decisions that wealthy retirees make every single day. The choice is yours, but the clock is running, and you don't get a second chance at this. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which of these 8 things you're guilty of. Let's build wealth, not regrets.